So there's this holiday created to celebrate love. And it's got all the bells and whistles, candy, cards, a day for chocolate and flowers, outdoing the year before if I can help it. There's this mad rush to the store in a haste to find the gift to express my affection for the one I just can't live without. Until, alas, I find the perfect sentiment written by someone I don't even know. There's a different way to look at love, to share love, beyond words, beyond sentiment, beyond a single day. A whole new way to look at the word love. See, Jesus showed us another way, how to stoop down and lift up the broken. Make sure the last in life are treated like the first. Show the most favor to the least likely. Hang out with those that have nothing to offer me. Reach out and forgive, even when it's not asked for. Ask forgiveness, even when I don't think I need it. What a way to love, to give, not just from my pocket, but from my heart too. To love them beyond what they can produce. Like them for more than their talent. Hug them despite their social status. See, Jesus showed me the type of love that doesn't stick to a holiday, that speaks beyond a card, that blossoms long after a flower dies. That's the kind of love I want, I need, that I'll give. The type of love that overflows from the most amazing grace.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Center of Unity Sunday Experience. And of course, happy Valentine's Day. As you may notice, I am live streaming from my home this morning, as everyone else that is a part of the service is also. So this is a grand experiment, our first time of having everyone remote into our live stream service due to the inclement weather that we're experiencing right now. And I know that even if you're watching us from a different state, it's likely that you are also in this winter experience with us, as 41 of the 48 contiguous states are experiencing snow and ice today. So we are all in this together. You know, it seems like everything else that we've experienced in this last year will certainly be different this Valentine's Day. The way it looks, the way it feels, not only due to the weather, but due to the pandemic that we're in right now. And as we get inventive, we have discovered ways in which we can connect with our loved ones, in which we can still experience and express love in our lives. And yet I pray that as we open ourselves to this day and to this experience, whether we're spending it with loved ones or we find ourselves physically alone, that we look deeper and open to that essence of divine love that is everywhere present. That today we deeply remember that we are not just loved, but we are made from that very substance of love. In fact, that eternal, unconditional love is the very fabric of our DNA. And as we awaken and recognize and embody that, then we can step in and love, as Jesus demonstrated love, and loving one another is possible. So I invite you to join with me as we call forth that love into our awareness, into our being, into our expression on this day as we begin our time together in prayer. God, it is that energy of love that we are focused on this day. And we take that also in the days to come so that we may live from that space of eternal love, that we may express that energy of love in all that we say and all that we do and all that we express. For that is the true call and purpose of each of us walking this journey on this earthly plane, just as Jesus did so many years ago, to be that essence, to be the embodiment of love. We are grateful today that we can join together and feel our love connection with one another, knowing that in spirit there is no time or distance between us, only the connections that we can express and experience heart to heart and mind to mind. And we commit ourselves to be that expression of love in our world, wherever it is that we are called. We are grateful for this opportunity to continue to deepen and raise and lower in humility this expression of love. It is after the nature of that living, loving Christ in each of us that we stand in this truth and that we commit ourselves to it. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be with you this morning and do the director of the day. I'm Jeff Holland, and at Center of Unity, we have a mission, a vision, and a core value. The mission at Center of Unity is we inspire spiritual growth through prayer, education, and sacred service. Our vision, we are centered in God. We envision a world free of judgment and filled with love. And of the core values we're speaking to this morning, we're speaking about spirit-led. We are open to guidance from spirit and seek it in all that we do. You know, Romans 8 says that for all who are being led by the Spirit of God, these are the children of God. And to be led is to be guided or to be directed or to be steered. And the Lord guides us and he steers us through life. Chuck Swindoll, he shares a story that I think helps to clarify this. He says, when I was in the Marine Corps, they were on a ship and they were around the northeastern corner of Taiwan near Taipei. And they had stopped at the mouth of the harbor and they awaited the arrival of a harbor pilot. And so this guy comes out and he takes the wheel of the ship and he guides them through the harbor to the dock. And at first they were a little confused because they could see the dock. I mean, it was very close. It was less than a mile away from where the ship was. But as they ventured into the harbor, they would look over the side of the ship, and there were mines just under the surface of the water all the way through the harbor. And if the ship had even, nudged one of those things, it would have been a disaster. But the pilot of the harbor, he knew where the mines were located, and he guided through the harbor. To be spirit-led, we are choosing to let God be our guide. But we have to let him come take control. We got to let him on the ship, take control, take the wheel. And when we do, spirit is a living, moving, and it is every part of our lives. Through the Spirit, we are able to be empowered and emboldened to fulfill our purpose. Living a Spirit-led life is exciting and it's thrilling. And when we allow Spirit to lead, positive change always happens. All right, and I believe we are going to go to Charlotte Winton.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to recite the Unity Principles. There is one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. The divinity is in all humankind. Jesus was not the exception, rather the example. We have direct access to God through prayer and meditation. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking, feeling, and acting. We can demonstrate now the good we desire. And now the daily word. The words for today are heart expression. You are dear to me. I hold you in my heart. Sharing love is a wonderful way of discovering and responding in the divinity alive in every heart, binding us as a human family. My loving nature helps me to see the best in every person whose life touches mine. Today, I remember one of the legends of Saint Valentine, in which he fashioned pieces of parchment into hearts, which he gave to others as tokens of his compassion and God's love. Today, the tradition continues when I say, "You are dear to me. I hold you in my heart," with a card, gift, call, or a simple act of kindness. I share love with no expectation of reciprocation, and my heart welcomes every expression of love from others. Love's energy grows through both giving and receiving. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. From John 13:34. And now a reading from Matt Sweat.
Well, I believe Matt may have had some trouble connecting with us this morning. So I'm hoping that maybe next Sunday he can share about Reverend Johnny Coleman, who was one of the early African American unity ministers, which is what he was going to share today. You know, there's a true story of a school board in the heart of the Tennessee Bible Belt that was wrestling with whether or not to institute a foreign language curriculum in its high school. After heated discussion with the community, a board member who was seeking to bring the discussion to an end stood up and said, "I am not in favor of instituting a foreign language curriculum. If English was good enough for Jesus, then it's good enough for me." And it's interesting to see how people have taken the historical Jesus and created a Jesus that works for them in the moment. Today, we're beginning a new series based on the book, The Wisdom Jesus by Cynthia Bourgeault. She is an Episcopal priest. She is an author, a teacher, a retreat and conference leader, and one who is a voice in this arising movement of really getting back to the very essence of the teachings of Jesus Christ. And I invite you to begin this journey by listening to a prayer that most of us are very familiar with. It's the Lord's Prayer, but to hear it from the perspective and from the language of the people who would have been listening when Jesus was speaking and teaching it to the people who were in front of him. It's an Aramaic understanding and version of the Lord's Prayer, as Jesus would have spoken it to those early listeners.
Avun, Avun, Avun. De Boschmaya, De Boschmaya, De Boschmaya. Nita Kadash Shema, Nita Kadash Shema, Nita Kadash Shema. Tete Malkuta, Tete Malkuta, Tete Malkuta. Neve Sevina Kakana the Boschmaya o Barha. Neve Sevina Kakana the Boschmaya o Barha. Neve Sevina Kakana the Boschmaya o Barha. Howlan Lachman Sun Kanan Yamana. Howlan Lachman Sun Kanan Yamana. Howlan Lachman Sun Kanan Yamana. Boschwoklan Halpain, Boschwoklan Halpain, Boschwoklan Halpain. Ekana Daphanan Shwakin il Hayavain. Ekana Daphanan Shwakin il Hayavain. Ekana Daphanan Shwakin il Hayavain. Ula Talan Omniscion, Ula Talan Omniscion, Ula Talan Omniscion. Ella passam en biche, ella passam en biche, ella passam en biche. Met hadel achim alkuda, met hadel achim alkuda, met hadel achim alkuda. U heila, utish borta, u heila, utish borta, u heila, utish borta. La alam, Amin, Amen. La alam, Amin, Amen. La alam, Amin, Amen.
And hopefully that helps us bring in the time frame and the language and the people and the culture. And that's a lot of what we're going to be exploring, at least in part, as we go through this series. You know, it's from this place in Palestine where Jesus walked and taught that Christianity radiated out in all directions. And certainly the one that we are familiar with is the Western line that was carried by the Apostle Paul into Turkey and the Greco-Roman lands and Southwest into Africa and Persia and India and even China. And the Christianity that we have received through this Western filter, which is in many ways the Roman filter, tends to confuse unity with uniformity, that it puts a high priority on order and on authority. With the discoveries that have been made in the 1940s, we now have data to help us better understand early Christianity and to give us an expanded lens beyond just this Western view to Jesus and to his teachings. The author suggests that the solidified Western view of Christianity has been blasted wide open by these four new streams of evidence. The first and the most important discovery is the finding of the early Christian Gospels in the 1940s in the caves at Nag Hammadi. These sacred books used by these early Christian communities especially in those first few hundred years after Jesus's deaths, have been categorized in many ways as Gnostic, although they simply represent the views of the people of that time. And there are books that didn't make it into the cut in the early Bible as it was formed in 325 AD. And ultimately, because these books were not deemed the official Gospels, in 367 they were ordered destroyed by the bishop Abathias. And what we're discovering now is that some of those monks, instead of destroying them, hid them away and gave us a really big blessing in our own understanding of who they were and what they believed at that time. The most significant of those scrolls that were found in the caves is the Gospel of Thomas, which gives us a radically new take on Jesus and the metaphysics behind his teachings. Another stream that brings new light into Christianity is known as the Syriac studies, where scholars have discovered that underneath the manuscripts of the Syrian-speaking Christians, there is an earlier living record of this very beginning of the Christian era. A drastically different take on who Jesus was and what his mission was all about. The third stream that the author talks about happened around the same time as the 1940s discovery at Nag Hammadi, and this was the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, documents that revealed the mystical Jewish sect that was preparing for the return of the Messiah. The author suggests that the discovery of these scrolls allows us to see Jesus within the context of the place and the time of his life. And it gives us a radically different accent to his teachings, as we realize that much of what he had to say was already deeply present in that community at the time, but it was also a call to transform the consciousness of the people. And finally, the author suggests that the rise of Christianity's lost contemplative tradition that has been rising over the last 40 or 50 years has opened a pathway for more people who identify as a Christian to rise above the rule following and the orthodoxy of the church and really be willing to explore the inner wisdom of the heart, something I think that Unity has been doing for the last century. And the influence of all of these discoveries has shaken up, in many ways, the Western view of Jesus. The Western view has been really focused as Jesus as our Savior. And this was shaped in large part by Paul and certainly cemented by Augustine some 400 years later through his doctrine and teachings of original sin. The Eastern Christians saw things and continue to see things radically different, that Jesus was not the Savior, rather the word for that would have been life giver, one who offered a path that they too could become an enlightened one. And that Eastern view emphasized how Jesus is like us, how what he did is something that we are also called to do ourselves. That Western Christian lens often tends to emphasize how Jesus is radically different from us, that he is begotten and not made, that he belongs to a higher order of being. And humanity, as viewed and taught certainly by Paul and and later cemented, as I said before, by Augustine, reinforced over the centuries that Jesus, representing something separate from us, that human beings were totally sinful and nothing of God lives within us. In fact, it seems quite hopeless unless we believe in Jesus and put our full trust in his mercy. Yet, as we begin to explore different lenses and different lines of Christianity around the world, and now as we have these newly discovered early gospels and early insights into the beginnings of Christianity, we are discovering more and more that Jesus was really viewed as a wisdom teacher. And the hallmark of a wisdom teacher is one who used parables and puzzles and teaching stories to impart the message and to invite the people into this new way of understanding and being. His message, the message of Jesus, was not that of a priest that stressed the importance of law and ritual. In fact, he oftentimes challenged those laws and those rituals, but rather of what would have been called and is still called in the Jewish tradition a rabbi. And a rabbi is really focused on and concerned with the transformation of human consciousness, asking those deeply penetrating questions about life and ourselves and our place in this world. It's likely, just to be able to understand this context of where Jesus was living and the environment that he lived in, that Jesus was exposed to many different spiritual ideas and philosophies as he grew up in Galilee. Galilee at that time was part of the vibrant Silk Road that connected the Mediterranean lands and the culture of Asia and China to that region of the world. He probably spoke several languages, including his native Aramaic, but also Hebrew and Latin. And we think Latin for sure because he was able to have a conversation with Pontius Pilate, and it's unlikely that Pontius Pilate spoke Aramaic, and likely even Greek. And his teaching style is focused in taking the familiar and shaking it to the core. For example, the golden rule that had been in that faith tradition for hundreds, if not thousands of years, to love your neighbor, one that most of us, if we've had any religious exposure, have heard and been taught. And he takes that question and pushes the very boundaries of our humanity by calling us not just to love our neighbor, but to love our enemies and to do good to those who hate us. In the Gospel of Thomas, there's a passage, a section that also tends to stir the pot as we read it now, and I'm certain it was very puzzling and challenging for those who were hearing at that time. It said, the disciples were asking Jesus, tell us how our end will be. They were concerned. And Jesus said, have you found the beginning so that you ask about the end? For where the beginning is, there the end will also be. Blessed is he who shall stand at the beginning, and he shall comprehend the end, and he shall not undergo death. You know, the meaning of death is one of those great questions of life. And Jesus tells us that the notion of separating things into a beginning and into an end is a limited way of looking at things, because ultimately it's all one. Another one of those deep and puzzling scriptures that we find in the book of Thomas is this. It says, let him who searches not cease searching until he finds. And when he finds, he will be disturbed. And when he has been disturbed, he will be amazed, and he will have dominion over the all. Listen to that one more time. Let him who searches not cease searching until he finds. And when he finds, he will be disturbed. And when he's been disturbed, he will be amazed, and he will have dominion over the all. Finding signifies the awareness of the growth of consciousness, which often at first, for those of you who have gone through some large transformation of the way that you think or feel or believe, it doesn't always bring serenity at first. Rather, it often signifies a sense of inner conflict and turmoil as we begin to grasp this new way of seeing life and grapple with all the things that we have said or done from this less than clear place that we have lived before. And that when we are willing to really navigate through that, to be with it, to allow it to not just be pushed away, but be a part of the continued work that we're doing, then we will be amazed because we will see and step into life through a new lens, through a new way of interacting. You know, several years ago, I went to a minister's retreat with Edwene Gaines, and she has a retreat center in Alabama. And on the last night of the retreat, we were invited to walk on fire. And it was an invitation. Everyone could make their own choice whether they wanted to say yes to that experience. And we spent the day in preparation, preparing our minds and our hearts and our belief system that it was possible that we could walk on fire, hot coals, and not get burned. And I pushed myself to the edge of the core of my beliefs, and I walked. Not just once, because I had to make sure it wasn't just a fluke. I had to turn around and walk it again. And you would think that the next day, as I drove back from Alabama, I would have just been riding on an emotional and spiritual high. I had just walked on fire without getting burned. I had the t-shirt that reminded me, I walked on fire. I can do anything. And yet, as I made this 8-hour drive back to my home, my mind and my heart were in a state of turmoil. Primarily about how else my own limiting beliefs were impacting my life. Where else was it where I was thinking that something was impossible, or I had ascribed to that because that's what the world told me? And I was looking at that in terms of my own personal life, and certainly in terms of my leadership of the spiritual community that I was serving. And as I listened, when I could, as I allowed myself to get quiet, my guidance pointed me to really explore the limiting belief that I had been holding, and perhaps had been even in as my example, inviting others to hold around the finances and the challenges of the finances that we were experiencing that time in our spiritual community. We had just undertaken a massive capital campaign, and we're in the process of doing a major renovation and expansion. And of course, the costs kept rising and issues kept showing up, and there was a lot of stress about how we were going to find the funds. We had already gone to the community and approved what we were going to spend. How were we going to find these additional funds to do the things that we needed to do? And it had caused me personally a lot of stress, the board stress, and certainly in the community. And I realized that I, as part of my belief system, had been limiting the channels from which we could receive our good. You know, sometimes we look out and we think, well, it's got to come from the people in the community, or it's got to come from a bank, or it's got to come from some channel that we've identified. And so I made a commitment in that to suspend those beliefs and believe that the channels were unlimited and where we could receive our good was unlimited. And I celebrated this new expanded awareness and invited our collective consciousness of that community to shift and to begin to embody a new way of being open to and calling forth our prosperity. And we held a prosperity prayer. I invited everyone to hold that prayer and to really focus their energy around this prosperity understanding. And as a result, unsolicited, within the month, we received a $100,000 gift, which allowed us to complete all of the things that were necessary in our expansion renovation. And it did get done, and it's beautiful. And it's an experience that I can check off my list and say, I'm not sure I want to have that one again, but I'm grateful for the ways in which it helped me to transform my consciousness. And I know for many others in that community. And, you know, as I've pondered that same question over this past couple of weeks, as I've been preparing to do this service, about in this moment where I'm being called to identify and to push and to transform any limiting beliefs that are in me or in this community that I'm serving now, what arose for me is really a strengthening of and a deepening of my belief that love and harmony is possible. You know, with what's happening in the world right now, and even the challenges that this community has had to walk through these last couple of years, I think it's something that's arising in me, and I am inviting you to also support and see if this is something that can expand and transform your beliefs about love and harmony. I came across this short affirmation from Catherine Ponder, and I wanted to invite you to join me in affirming this, and we're going to affirm it right now, and then also to affirm it in the days and weeks to come. If you want to take a moment and take a snapshot of that with your phone camera or write it down really quickly, we'll keep it up there for just a few minutes. But if you would take a moment now and just affirm this with me right where you are. There is nothing but God's love and harmony at work here and now. Yes, there is nothing but God's love and harmony at work here and now. And see if you can breathe that in all the way from the top of your head down to the tip of your toes. There is nothing but God's love and harmony at work here and now. And we're going to take that affirmation, that truth, as we move for a period of time, just to bring our attention inward. And as you do that right where you are, I invite you to just get comfortable, to become aware of the breath as it's moving in and out of your body. And if you find yourself breathing a little shallow, to take a deep breath in and let that breath go completely. Naturally and easily feeling that flow of breath as it animates every part of your physical being. And know that that breath is the very breath of God that animates our minds and our hearts too. And we focus our attention in that thinking part of us and allow it to slowly sink down into our heart space, so that we are putting on the mind of Christ. We are putting on the mind of love. so that our thoughts and our feelings and our lens and our perspective is broadened and expanded and transformed. And we know in a way that is not just the thinking part of us, but the very DNA fabric of us, that there is nothing but God's love and harmony at work in me, in this moment, in this life, in this community, in this United States of America, and in this world. See if you can envision that radiating out from the very center of your being like ripples in a pond, filling your living space and all of the people who might be occupying it with you. Your neighborhood, your city, your state. Picking up energy as it ripples out across all of this country. And as it gains momentum, encircles the world. And even beyond, out into the ethers of the universe. There is nothing but love and harmony at work in this moment. And we take this experience that we are having right now and allow it to transform the ways in which we step into life, in the ways that we see and feel and do and express. We are grateful. And as you begin to bring your awareness back to this time and space, perhaps wiggling your toes or your fingers as you feel yourself fully aware of the body and the chair supporting you and the environment around you. And taking another deep breath and allowing yourself to have this experience to move you through this day, alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastically being that channel of love and harmony in your world. And when you're ready to open your eyes and return to this place and time. You know, this past week, I had a beautiful experience as I was going through the Starbucks line and getting my morning coffee. And actually, I don't drink coffee all that often, but it was a morning where I felt like I needed to have a little extra physical boost as I was on my way into the office. I got to experience receiving a beautiful random gift of kindness as the person in front of me bought my coffee. So as I went up to pay, I said, nope, the person in front of me took care of it. And, you know, I got to experience that desire to want to go say thank you, but they were already long gone. And I was reminded, okay, this is just an opportunity for you to receive. And what a beautiful gift that is, to not always have to feel like we have to reciprocate, but we can just receive the gift in the spirit that it was extended to us. And in holding this affirmation that we're going to be working with in mind and heart, I'm asking you to join me in expressing that love and harmony through random acts of kindness this week, at least one a day, whether it's paying for somebody else's coffee if you happen to be out there, although I imagine that many of us will be at home for the next several days, or calling a loved one, or cooking a meal and sharing it with somebody, or sending a card. In some ways, just reaching out. And I think if you can creatively find some way to do that anonymously, it's even better, because then you get to feel that energy of, I just gave freely without expecting anything in return. And the joy that comes from doing that. So that's our invitation this week as we celebrate this day of love, that we take that energy of love out into the world, out into the ways in which we connect and share it with people. For truly, there is nothing but God's love and harmony at work here now. And so it is.
Seeds of bitter root will grow bitter fruit. A tree without its limbs wears a righteousness. It's better to be lowly along with the oppressed. Whatever's in our hearts, our lives will reflect. Help us to be planted in you. No father that he knew. Where does he turn to? Something will fill that space. The streets will indoctrinate. The love of God he craves. We can't turn him away. No matter how long the road, even when it's not comfortable, cause we got nothing if we don't have love. Let love lead us, yeah. Oh, let love lead us, yeah. Oh, let love lead us, yeah. Oh, if we are in Christ, there is no black or white, there's no left or right. God, give us your eyes, help us to erase the bitterness and hate till there is only love. If we are in Christ, there's no black or white, there's no left or right. God, give us your eyes, help us to erase the bitterness and hate till there is only love. No matter how long the road, no matter if it's uncomfortable, cause we got nothing if we don't have love. Let love lead us, yeah. Oh, let love lead us, yeah. Oh, let love lead us, yeah. Oh, let love lead us.
Now is the time we prepare our tithes, gifts, and love offerings for Center of Unity. And as you hold your gift in heart and mind, join me in the following offering blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. If you're watching us for the first time today, we're glad you kept your appointment with the universe and are joining us. We welcome you. We invite you to visit our website, www.centerofunity.org, and fill out the Connect card you'll find there. Today, we remember and appreciate you, our congregation. You have supported us and one another in every way throughout the many changes we've undergone and the changes we're going through. Your support through the pandemic, now in its 11th month, has been transforming. You have stuck together as a family does through some challenging times. And together, we have proven that the Center of Unity is not a building at 1650 Hughes Road in Grapevine, Texas, but rather it is its people. And so to our beloved congregation, we love you, we bless you, and we truly appreciate you. And we behold the Christ in you. Namaste.
Here's what's coming up at Center of Unity. We are delighted to announce that we have the opportunity to deepen our understanding of connection and community with a 7-week series on Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, facilitated by Karen Starrs. In this series, we will learn how to dissolve enemy images and free our life energy to create more peace in the world. Although this is a series, you don't have to commit to all 7 sessions. Come as you are and meet your community at a deeper level. You can register from our website or the Center of Unity app. Every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., Reverend Linda leads a metaphysical Bible interpretation class on Zoom. Each class is self-contained and all are welcome to join. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from the website or the Center of Unity app. Every Sunday, we gather on Zoom before church to say hi and catch up. Come join us from 10 to 10:25 a.m. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from our website or the Center of Unity app. Ash Wednesday is this week. This is a time of reflection for many. Though we won't have a service this year, we invite you to remember the day in a way that is meaningful for you. Visit our website or the Center of Unity app to find the elements we use and description of what they represent. Our Friday Fellowship and Fun is now once a month on the 3rd Friday of each month at 7 p.m. Come join in the fun this Friday and find out what all is celebrated on this day and play a game. All are welcome to join. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from our website or the Center of Unity app. Next Sunday, we will have a virtual town hall meeting where we'll get the news, ask questions, and share our thoughts. Join us for this important and informational meeting. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from our website or the Center of Unity app. There are multiple ways you can make a donation to the Center of Unity. You can drop your donation off at the church, mail it to our P.O. box, visit our website, use the COU or Venmo app, or you can text 817-606-8768 and follow the prompts. Your continued support is greatly appreciated.
Well, Jeff is having some issues with his camera, so I am not going to lead you in the peace song. I invite you to sing it right where you are if that's something that is a part of your Sunday experience. But right now, we are going to end our time together with our prayer for protection. Please join with me. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God, and the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a beautiful Sunday. Please stay safe, stay warm. We'll see you soon.